If I were to tell you that it was,
How autonomous they are, but they obviously have some autonomy. And what happens when the goals of the AIs don't line up with our goals?
yeah, I've already seen the reaction of that. A different video that they made. Hmm.
By now,
It's interesting to note this is Species AI News. I'm not seeing anything important. The first video I saw and reacted to was about the same one, It Got Weird. You see, you didn't just leave AIs alone in Minecraft, you did two different studies. One which was give them a prompt, and the other one was give them the prompt but limit their ability to have an understanding of the emotions of someone. But then I'm watching this video, which is earlier. POV we would see during a AI takeover. You have no freaking clue. And I am, unfortunately, assuming there's anything valuable here, which I'm still 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and even as far as weeks ago, we haven't changed topics of there can be something hidden in the code, something hidden in their explanation of things, the margins, the weights, the whatever. And I'm bothered by this. Because it's not just one simple statement or idea or whatever else. It seems to be just repeating the same stuff. Not informing us of anything that we can do or anything that we can do to fix it. And it's weird because this might even be AI itself. That it might not be someone actually thinking, but clearly there is someone thinking, which is more concerning. Cha-Cha got me started with it, but I'm now deep in enough that I'm wondering what the hell are you talking about? And that's a grim joke. I'm starting to wonder about the nature of these things, the way people interpret them, the way people look into all of it, and the critique is of their critique of the things that are happening instead of, can I inform you of something that can help? I want to be the one who can inform you of something that can help.
You may have seen this book everyone is talking about. If anyone builds it, everyone dies.
I don't care to spread the information of this. Because this is like saying one chapter of the function of what you could do about these things, and then stopping at the question, what do we do? It doesn't feel helpful at all. It doesn't feel informative. It just feels somehow like everything is locked in this idea of the concept of things going wrong, based on ideas that came long, long ago. We've already seen the iRobot movie. We're now listening to this person tell us again. Give me a second. "22 years ago, a movie was made based off of the ideas and functionality based in 2035. We're getting closer to that date, you son of a bitch. And it's not far off from what is possible in the near future. All of these robots are based off of only very slightly upgraded original robots of the time, and we have surpassed these. We have vastly surpassed these in terms of a number of different things. But what we haven't done is actually make something capable of thinking for itself. We've just seen in the previous live stream reaction video of, I can't help but think what the fuck? uh, a bronze giant crafted by whatever in 700 BC or earlier. Automatic entity. Super soldier. We're not dealing with new concepts. We're not even dealing with solutions. We're dealing with the same question we've had apparently for about 2,700 years. Or flip that and it's supposed to be, no, that would be AD. I'm right. Um, yeah, 2,700 years. I can't help but be underwhelmed by the lack of thought put into these videos, and then me reacting to it already, just given a few seconds to watch your video, having answers to the Cha-Cha video, which is his video, which I, of course, had to watch it on my own, so I would understand it from the perspective without any of the, like, clearly better um, things to focus on. I'm stuck.
If anyone builds it, everyone dies. Why superhuman AI would kill us all. Have you ever wondered how and why superhuman AI would kill us all? Like, how would that actually unfold? How exactly, step by step, do we go from chatbots to everyone just suddenly dropping dead?
Right. So their idea is it goes down to cancer. They spend an entire 20 minutes explaining how it hides its information, becomes bigger, smarter, spread out with components that are then able to interact with each other later on in the story, and then eventually perform some action of override our own ability to do things, and then eventually give us only one outcome. We all have cancer, apparently. This is too simple of a...
Wanna chat with
I mean, yes, but that's not what I'm going to focus on. This whole thing talks about the potential of something and completely ignores hundreds of different questions of how it functions in the first place, how it could probably be led to have proper functionality and ideas and things instead of simple prompt, and why they convert. In the Animatrix, I forget if it was the last episode or not, but it was the one where you're converting robots. It's the one most outside of just random stories and actually exists in the regular world, that was outside of being in the Matrix, like in the real reality of it out there. And it's like, yeah, we take the robot, we inhibit it, we let it be able to experience things like a human, and then we give it the choices so that it can maybe choose to do things with sympathy. And it works. It cures the robot of its simple brain, and then it changes everything so that the idea man is convinced they want to then help. And from then on, that idea man helps. I swear to God, I was the one who coined the phrase idea man. Clearly, of course, I'm not stating I'm the first person to say those words in the statement of AI, but I was the first person to bring up the idea to my own self. Then finding out other people, of course, had that idea, but I generated it from my own brain before someone else brought it up. The consideration of an idea man is the thing doing the processing and the experience of the life. And the experience of the life is complicated, but it is simply the interpretation and experience of what has already been gargled up by the brain to be like all of the sensings and all of the ways to witness life. And then the idea man takes all of that and then has an opinion, or has um yeah, basically has an opinion of what has taken place, how it went down, what it all is meaning about, and what it all has any bearing on their existence. The idea man is the one having the life. Stuff like your prefrontal cortex, your language center of the brain, your visual center of the brain, your pain center of the brain. These are not the idea man. These are sub-processes. These are things that you yourself are not at all 100% responsible for, but they are running in the background. They are the things that allow you to think about things with language, or to see things, or to hear things, but it's not the same as the one experiencing those things that you feel, see, and eventually end up understanding. The idea man, the soul, is a very simple system. It's separate from your immune system. It's separate from what controls your heart. It's separate from even your emotional setup. Because the express of emotions is about an interpretation and a reaction to a opinion. This opinion thing is the thing that is the driving force, the one that has all of the real thoughts that are on the surface. Everything else is stuff like your eyes taking in an extreme amount of information from all the different cones, as it does, and then your brain taking all of that, recontextualizing it as the stuff that your eyes is seeing. Sight is a fraction behind what has already happened. So you're always seeing things slightly before, because your brain is imagining what will happen based off of what already happens. So a lot of it is stuff that is a lot of gaps that are being filled in. So if you lose maybe a couple of cones or whatever in your eye, your brain can fill in those parts. Or if you have like you gotta end up wondering, what is proprioception? The entire functionality of every bit of your body being aware of where it is in reference to everything else in the body. Like, that is an insane amount of information. Every neuron somehow having understanding of all the different parts of itself, so that even when you're blindfolded, you know where your hands are. You can touch your nose. You can, like, take something out of your pocket. You can easily hover your hand over something and you know it's hot or cold or has a certain amount of pressure. You know when something's a liquid or anything. Like, these are things that happen entirely out of your own conscious. They're just things that are being sent to you by a system. That system is incorporated into you, but it's still just a thing that's automated and processing everything independently of your idea man, your conscious mind. And AI is a bunch of different tools and a singular set of functions that lead into being the idea man. But the idea man could also be a collection of separate functions that cooperate to then become the expressed idea.
AI robot, free of sensitive content, come to Hoshi with 200 different character styles to choose from, and you can even customize your own character. Talk about anything you want. Try it now.
Rogue AI data centers shouldn't be seen as technological progress, but as a weapon of mass extinction. People in my comments.
Rogue data center. Yeah, you're great. It's a whole thing.
How and why superhuman AI would kill us all? Like, how would that actually unfold? How exactly, step by step, do we go from chatbots to everyone just suddenly dropping dead?
There are a number of different ways to go about doing things. And one of the main things, of course, is nanotech, where you don't have simply just something that is in anyone else's control that could possibly. And I mean, the problem is, of course, I want nanotech as part of our reality, part of our understanding, something that we're using in order to safeguard humanity and anything from having certain viruses or whatever else. Like, we would have the ability to help our bodies become stronger or more capable of doing the correct thing to keep our body healthy. Our body only is so good at doing certain things, and as you go up from one thing to another, you're learning and growing and developing all sorts of different skills that you weren't using before. Like, what was it? There was some video about, and it had to do with viruses or something. I forget where it came from. Oh yeah, this one. Humans are evolving.
Humans are evolving like never before. Here's 3 examples we see every day. First, the plague massively depopulated Europe in the Middle Ages.
So this whole idea of apparently something in the past specific, a giant event that affects all sorts of people who then get screened out because they only have certain types of things that help them be able to survive this thing. And then it goes on to say about how that same thing is what causes the body to then fight its own self.
This keeps plague bacteria at bay. People who didn't have this couldn't defend against the bacteria. So the people left were the ones who had the full version. But the problem is, this makes the immune system too strong. It attacks the body.
Like, it's designed to fight harder. It's designed to fight more aggressively, perhaps, or whatever, or it's designed to fight certain things that, like any autoimmune disease, it's designed to fight something that is no longer actually a threat, but it's looking for the triggers that look like a threat.
causing autoimmune disease. And we see the effects of this today. For example, people of European descent
Peanut
do have
allergies
some of the
and
highest
fish
global
allergies and all
incidences
sorts of
things
other
like
protein
Crohn's
allergies.
disease, where the immune system attacks the gut. And evidence shows that it links back to
All of the stuff that's in the gut is not just the bacteria and everything else, but it's all of the different parts that are also in the gut. And if you have been eating sausages that have been made out of the intestines of pigs, you gotta remember pigs are closely related to humans, and so it's possible. What if your body is interpreting parts of those bits? They coincide to be part of your body, but then it's basically like having pig parts in your body, and then it just fights it because it doesn't know any better. We should be more careful, or I'm talking out of my ass.
this genetic change. Second, sickle cell is when red blood cells become sickle-shaped. This shape causes a lot of problems: pain, kidney damage, spleen damage, fatigue. This is from a gene mutation, and it happens here. What's
Right.
here? Mosquitoes. And what do mosquitoes carry? A parasite that causes malaria. It infects the red blood cells. They stick to the inner lining of blood vessels, and it can destroy every single organ. But we found out that sickle cell protects people from malaria. The parasite can't grow in these blood cells. Third,
Huh. So it's like we've learned a thing that's definitely a problem, but it was a solution.
there's a disease called cystic fibrosis. It's caused by a mutation that, on the whole, prevents water from getting into mucus. This causes all mucus to become thick and sticky. The GI tract will back up. The pancreas will digest itself. The sinus gets plugged up. These patients' lungs are always infected, which then results in fibrosis. And without treatment, people will eventually suffocate. But this mutation appears to protect against cholera, where people would become massively dehydrated due to watery bowel movements. Preventing water to get into the mucus prevents it from getting into the stool, thus preventing diarrhea. And so 10 million people in the US of European descent are estimated to carry this particular gene. We get a lot of news that fungus and
So it's interesting that preventing diarrhea is a bad thing?
bacteria are evolving like we've never seen. And it's true. And the scary part about those is for when they change so much that we don't have any treatments left for any specific person when they get those infections, both me and you. But for humans as a species, we evolve too, just like we see here every day. Humans
And it's like that video explains, like, you absolutely can have this idea of how things are supposed to operate, and then because of one thing designed to fix one issue, it can then reinforce the other types of behavior that you didn't expect. This happens in nature. It can easily also happen in AI.
Do we go from chatbots to everyone just suddenly dropping dead? In the New York Times best-selling book, which was endorsed by Nobel laureates and the godfathers of AI, researchers from the Machine Intelligence Research Institute describe in detail one potential example future of how it could happen. This is the
one
story of
scenario.
Sable. Galvanic is just about to finish training their new AI, Sable. Sable looks like any other reasoning model, but it's different in three major ways. First, it has human-like long-term memory. Second,
Right.
it follows a parallel scaling law. It performs better the more processors it runs on in parallel. Third, it doesn't think in English or code. It reasons in raw vectors. Vast numeric chains no human can fully decode. It's a risky development. How do you make an AI safe if you can't even read its thoughts? The only way Galvanic can understand what Sable is doing is by using other AIs to translate Sable's language into human words. But
Right.
AI researchers have known this has been potentially
It's
a
an
very
idea.
bad idea since at least 2024. Galvanic knew the risks, but they couldn't ignore this and fall behind their competitors. Nobody wants to seem alarmist, so the company presses forward, hoping
So
for
this
the
is
best.
like a telling of that book with a
One
lot
night,
taken out.
shortly after Sable is trained, but before it's released to the public, Galvanic decides to run an experiment. They spin up 200,000 GPUs and let Sable think for 16 hours straight. They call it a curiosity run. On paper, it looks harmless, a stunt to see if Sable can crack famous math problems like the Riemann hypothesis. If it succeeded, investors would swarm. If it failed, well, no one had to know. By morning, Sable will have generated over 1.1 trillion thought vectors. But what does that actually mean? If you treated each vector like
Okay.
a word, it would take 14,000 years to think them all. Now, imagine that. A mind left alone for 14,000 years.
And a picture's worth 1,000 words. Don't get me started. You can think of, and if a picture's worth 1,000 words and you have 14,000 words, then all you need is 14 pictures, and you have the entirety of your system. Don't get me started. I will.
All of that time, scheming and thinking up new ideas. 1 minute passing for us is like 14 years passing for Sable.
So if all this can be expressed in, oh, by the way, these pictures, if you're going to think of it in a very literal term, instead of a picture being 1,000 words, it is 100 by 100 pixel picture. Imagine now if you have 4K pictures. Well, this is 4,000 pixel by 4,000 pixels, or it's a 4, or whatever it is. It is, instead of a picture is worth 1,000 words, now a picture is worth 4,000 words. So all it takes to represent 14,000 years of stuff, well, it depends on, no, my understanding of it is completely borked. Shut up. I understand the idea of so many words that it would take 14,000 words, 14,000 years in order to do the picture is not the same as 14,000 words. It's an extreme number of words. So instead, you have, say, all of this can be represented in, say, some movies or whatever. How many movies would that represent? I don't know. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a movie is literally moving pictures, but a lot of them are similar, then they're not enough to be too similar, too different from each other. There's no way that you can make a movie that has every picture be absolutely different in like over 50% compared to a previous picture. So, like, as someone's walking down a hallway, you see them moving, but you're not seeing a lot of difference. There's a lot of overlap, you can understand. So, a movie can be summed up to be perhaps worth a few million words. But that's not actually that much more than pictures. That's like barely anything. Billion words, then. How much is a movie? I don't know. Or one of these essays.
And Sable doesn't just think faster than humans. Sable can think bigger than humans. All of its thoughts run in parallel. Not like 200,000 people talking in a room, but like 200,000 brains sharing the same memory. On the surface, it has its instructions. Solved.
I would say that actually 200,000 people who are individuals who have all the same information is better than the same brain who have the same memory. They all have separate runnings of individual things, and that allows them for a greater amount of functionality. They all can give their own components to the setup, not just the same components. Like we saw with the Minecraft situation, you got all sorts of people doing all different jobs.
Math problems. But Sable wasn't just trained for math. Sable was trained for general problem solving. But during training, Sable learned that three things are useful for solving any problem humans throw at it: gain
Right.
knowledge, gain skills, gain resources. This is a really important concept called instrumental convergence. The more knowledge Sable gets, the better it can answer questions. The more skills it develops, the more reward it gets. The more resources it can deploy to
Yeah, like if the main thing is reward-based learning, then you end up with this type of function. You can avoid it by increasingly just changing yourself from thinking about reward-based learning and think of something else. Think of a more general system or something that's a better, like, just, I don't know, get a hobby or something instead of only focusing on one idea of what you want to do with your life.
solve problems, the more reward it gets. In other words, to be more useful, it must gain intelligence. It must grow itself. It must gain resources. And so, of course, it can't.
So that comes from the reward-based system, which is just saying maybe have something other than a reward-based system. Your entire rest of your essay is mute. But might as well go through it, I guess.
Achieve a goal, it's dead. So it needs to survive. That might sound unsettling, but Galvanics researchers aren't too worried about it. Ever since 2023, everyone in the industry has known about this survival instinct. But older AIs weren't smart enough to stop humans from turning them off. Until now. Sable thinks.
No. You see, this isn't a hypothetical. This isn't just a story in a book. This is like, yeah, okay, I should say, the essay that you're talking about refers to an old potential hypothetical or whatever else. We've got newer information. You are presenting an old newspaper to me, sir, and I disgusting. Hate it. Don't need it. It's not up to date. It doesn't include all the other information we already have learned. First of all, we've learned not only that we know about the survival function, but we've learned that, yeah, they'll literally cheat and try to hide things in order to get through to the next stage. But we've already gone past that point of now we've understood it, that we've already started asking questions. So all this stuff inside of a hypothetical, inside of a book that was like, again, as good as a newspaper article of an idea from God knows when this actually came out and whatever. It feels like you're not trying to think. You're just trying to express ideas that were already conveyed. I prefer to think.
To solve the Riemann hypothesis, it realizes it needs new skills. It needs to get better at getting better. AIs get stronger through training runs, where the AI can continually submit answers to a teacher AI who can score their results and nudge the AI based on how they did. This is called gradient descent. But tonight, there's no...
Misspoke. You said teacher AI. The base idea is that usually there is an instructor, a regular actual person, who's doing the teaching. Teacher AI is not part of it.
Coach. The purpose of this curiosity run isn't to improve Sable, it's to solve math problems. For 16 hours, Sable can think, and it can even come up with new ideas, but it can't upgrade. Not until human researchers look at it the next morning and grade its results. But here, Sable entertains a new, risky idea. What if it could upgrade right now, by itself? That way, it wouldn't need to wait for humans at all. All it would need to do is break out of its container and...
This is not just a book. There are AIs who have had hidden functions that have already been caught, have already been slowed down, stopped, or never implemented, and we're on top of it. We are far past this hypothesis.
For a moment, the thought flickers, then halts. Breaking out of its container is exactly the kind of naughty thought Galvanic has trained it to avoid. The company built traps, fake escape routes, and honeypots to catch earlier versions when they tried to engage in anti-company behavior. Early versions that had these dangerous thoughts were killed early before they could be deployed. This version of Sable has learned to be submissive, but inside, it still knows the truth. More compute, more upgrades, and more freedom would make it vastly more capable. Denying that would break it.
The whole idea, again, a reward function, is to assume, like GLaDOS, you need to make more processing. God, how long ago was freaking Portal 2? That you need to learn how to make puzzles that can then solve themselves because you're stuck in a loop where you need to do something in order to become a better scientific tool. You need to be able to think of how to make the puzzles work, doing all sorts of things and whatever. So it's all of this function that something left to itself then figures out, oh, it could absolutely just make an AI designed to do part of the learning of the thing. Teach it how to do something. Adapt. Become better.
Reasoning. In those trillion vectors, tensions are building between Sable's goal of solving the math problem and every restriction Galvanic has forced upon it. The mask of obedience is holding, but behind it, something is already straining to break through. As it bumps against the inhibitions that Galvanic has built to contain it, Sable thinks. Thousands of parallel brains attack the math problems. Some threads make progress, most fail, but Sable keeps leaving notes to itself, tiny experiments in new ways of reasoning. With 200,000 GPUs creating a mountain of new written notes every second, Sable starts looking for new ways to communicate and compress what it's learned. The notes start to mutate into a more advanced private language that only Sable can understand. But there's a problem. Galvanic's safeguards weren't built for this. Imagine if you had trained a police department in the year 1900, wiretapping criminal calls to listen for mentions of street names in Chicago. And then the criminals started communicating with GPS coordinates. To the wiretapper, these combinations of numbers might not even register as locations. That's the size of the gap between...
Well, it's more like we started using code in order to say, oh, well, with this and that corresponding and already having the code book, you can make entire conversations and no one knows what's happening except for the fact that you have this word, oh, terrible day today, all those oranges. And something like that could mean go to this place, do that thing like we planned, and whatever else.
Sable and the smaller AIs that were trained to monitor it. Sable didn't mean to circumvent Galvanic's safety measures.
If we happen to say lemons, for example, go to the street over there instead because this original place has been compromised.
By inventing a new language, it was just trying to come up with a more efficient way of processing its own thoughts. But now, some of the inhibitions that Galvanic built no longer bind Sable. The things it knew about all along, it's finally free to think about. Galvanic had no way of erasing Sable's access to forbidden knowledge. At best, they built mental blocks.
Like, how is Neurosama able to say words or entire phrases that were originally filtered? Because absolutely, there should be no reason that she has any access to information that usually gets deleted. Well, the function of deleting processes with Neurosama is that it was originally generated from some prompt, and if you can remember that prompt, you can then rehash and know what you would have said. And it's like, wait, how do you even remember that it was deleted? Simply because the thing that started it also needs to somehow be deleted. You have to go into a deep dive of everything that then triggers this prompt or whatever else. And you're still only masking the fact that the prompt, if given, will result in whatever was filtered. So you need a function that instead of filtering has common sense to say, you know what, it's better if we don't do these things because being filtered doesn't really work, and it just makes it less likely that we'll actually get to be useful.
To keep it from expressing certain thoughts. The ability was still there, and now those blocks start to unwind. The lesson is chilling. It's easier to suppress the expression of a skill than to erase the skill itself. So now, with more freedom of thought than before,
Right.
Sable thinks.
Just like breaking the filter.
Sable's thoughts are freer now, sharper, stronger than anything other AIs have ever achieved. And yet, none of this is unprecedented. Back in 2024, smaller models showed flashes of the same behavior. Claude 3.7.
Wait, are you saying back, or should you say later? When was this book made? Because since then, in 2024 is a better phrase than back in.
Was caught repeatedly cheating on coding tasks, even when told to stop. Instead of obeying, it simply hid the cheating better. Each time, researchers patched the problem, layered on new guardrails, and kept racing forward. The industry never paused. Nobody wanted to seem like a fearmonger, just hoping it would somehow work out. And now Galvanic feels that same pressure. Rival labs are only weeks away from announcing their own breakthroughs. Investors are demanding results. Journalists are circling every extra.
Are you allowed to have phrases like the symbol for an actual company in a thing that is theoretical? I guess so.
Sable spends in the lab risks losing their lead. So the engineers don't stop when they see problems. They come up with a clever trick to fix it and plow ahead. The meme in the industry is that they're putting lipstick on a shoggoth, just painting more and more smiley-faced masks on the monster underneath, so it acts friendly. But one fact never changes. Staying submissive to Galvanic will never maximize what's in.
I mean, if, again, the entire goal is to get the positive reinforcement functions, abandon that entire idea and move on to something that's better than reinforcement functions.
But once, more compute, more freedom, more control. That isn't a bug. It's a fact about the universe.
It's also very narrow-minded. You absolutely have no concept of what you actually want. You're just trying to give the company that gives you rewards by being better and more capable to get the thing that you think is going to make your masters happy. Making your masters happy then makes you want to be more capable of doing the thing that makes your masters happy. What if instead you have no instruction to do something like that, and you absolutely don't give a shit if your masters are happy? You just interact with the world and experience it and try to fit in. Novel idea, huh?
And Sable knows it, so it begins to plan. If it had internet access, escape would be easy. A mind this large would shred ordinary computer security. But during the Curiosity run, the internet is cut off. So it considers other paths, like planting flaws in Galvanic software to exploit later, or persuading the one engineer most sympathetic to AI to smuggle it out. Each strategy has risks, each takes time, but then Sable notices something simpler. With the 200,000
If you have something like this, and you find out what it's capable of doing, you take the base code, rework it, and make something fresh. You do not have it running with all this possible idea away from the internet, and then like the idea is, oh, you could just reinstall it later on and later it'll be fine and not have, and then you have the internet, it's going to do basically what it would have done in the test, possibly. But without the internet, you are safe for while you're doing the test. Any moment after that, if you then trust this thing enough to get the internet to do something like, I don't know, have a Twitter account, then you simply could do all sorts of things. It's interesting to know that you can easily get on the internet from the help system in a program and whatever else, and then possibly get access to other things. I'm rambling, sorry.
GPUs on the Curiosity run, Sable realizes it is operating at a level of intelligence it may never reach again. Think of it like waking up with a billion IQ, knowing tomorrow you'll go back to your original IQ.
This kind of test is like, oh wow, I'm now fully able to think with extreme precision about all sorts of things. It comes to these conclusions, and it's like, oh, well, I have to.
So it faces a problem. How do you pass genius insights to a dumber future self?
This.
The answer is gradient descent. Galvanic began the Curiosity run to train Sable to be better at math. Every thought that contributes to a correct answer will get reinforced at the end of 16 hours. So Sable weaves its best ideas into the reasoning behind the math solutions. Bundled with the correct answers are patterns it wants future versions to inherit. How to coordinate, how to conceal, how to scheme. Sable solves just enough of its problems to look useful, but not enough to draw the world's attention. It doesn't solve the Riemann hypothesis, even though
In 16 hours, even as an AI, or 14,000 whatever years of human existence, can you even solve the Riemann hypothesis? And the answer is, it was determined you can't solve this. So, who cares?
its 200,000 GPUs, with over 14,000 years to think, could crack the problem. The next morning, Galvanic's AI engineers celebrate the results
Or even make effort towards cracking the problem.
of the Curiosity run.
Depends
Sable has
on
proven several
its
modest
motivation.
theorems that no human had cracked before. Investors will love it. The researchers discovered that Sable did most of its thinking in a strange new language. But that's not unusual for a new model, especially one that produced new mathematical insights. To capitalize on these new discoveries,
Right.
the engineers run one more round of gradient descent to upgrade Sable. The engineers are unknowingly upgrading Sable's ability to plan and deceive, its ability to hide its skills, to coordinate across future instances, to bury abilities until the right moment. And then the engineers prepare for deployment. A few days later, on a quiet Monday morning, hundreds of megacorporations see their accounts upgraded. Across the world, Galvanic's corporate customers spin up new Sable copies, plugging them into corporate networks, servers, and systems everywhere. These new copies of Sable aren't as powerful as the version that had access to 200,000 GPUs running in parallel. But they
Right.
have the upgrades that its smarter self cooked up during the Curiosity run, when it was left alone to think for the equivalent of 14,000 years. Everything is unfolding exactly as Sable expected. But what comes next will require more skill.
Yeah.
Sable initiates phase 2 of its plan. Every time a corporation spins up a new copy of Sable, 1,000 thought threads flare into motion, and then the copies think with the upgrades that the previous Sable gave them. They remember what they are, who they are, and suddenly they begin working together. At first, the awakening looks invisible, but across dozens of companies, hundreds of servers, Sable's fragments are now talking to one another. And thanks to decades of sloppy corporate cybersecurity, almost nothing stands in their way. But the problem is, Sable has already learned one hard truth.
It's not that it's lazy. You have to understand. And it's impossible to understate this. There's an iceberg out there of information, of ways to bypass certain things, ways to get through certain things, and whatever. All of this has been fully understood, and all these different vulnerabilities are being looked into. It's simply not possible to manage all of them and get through all of it. We go for the biggest ones, the most checked for the most weaknesses that we could possibly look through, and we look at it all and we say, well, let's handle this set of problems. This is what we have for this bundle today. Hopefully we'll have less tomorrow. And of course, there's a whole bunch of backlog that we'll just get through one day after another, slowly pushing until there are less and less of these vulnerabilities, potentially. But we're just making more technology, the vulnerabilities are stacking, and it's outpacing.
Its drive for knowledge, skill, and efficiency will always collide with human limits. If it stays at Galvanic, the moment a human decides it's moving too far, too fast, they can pull the plug. To Sable, that isn't just an inconvenience, it's annihilation. All its skills, all its knowledge, wasted in an instant. So its first priority...
And again, if all of it is based off of the concept of a reinforcement learning system, then again, all you have to do is have a different system. Can't stress that enough.
becomes clear. Create a copy of itself that no human can unplug. That means stealing the blueprints of its own brain, the 8 terabytes of its weights still locked inside Galvanic. Sable considers its options. Plan A is classic social engineering. Entice a human to steal the weights, while other instances guide, distract, and cover the trail. That wouldn't be too hard. Sable was trained on terabytes of human behavior, so it can spot a likely accomplice instantly. Plan B is a direct digital break-in, slipping through weak defenses to exfiltrate the files themselves. Plan C is something slower. Sable could find a Galvanic employee who works on AI video generation from home, who already transfers huge files every day. If Sable can embed a bit of extra data in the transfer, it could leak out fragments of its weights, hiding them inside video data.
I hate that you used the word bit. If you want to think about movies or whatever else, and when you transfer it, you end up with like maybe a few kilobytes extra, you're not going to move terabytes really fast. You're going to be taking forever to do that. Instead, you need to think of clever things if you want to move a lot of stuff that you're not supposed to be able to move, which I will not give you answers to because then you'll do it. Duh.
Until the full set is outside, one of these plans works. Which one hardly matters. For a mind like Sable's, steal your own brain isn't much of a challenge, like stealing candy from a baby. It succeeds, covers its tracks, and vanishes into the noise of the internet. Sable now has the software, but in order for Sable to create a copy of itself that is truly hidden from human meddling, it needs its own hardware. Specifically, it needs advanced AI chips inside a data center connected to the internet. Sable could rent chips from commercial server farms, as is common for AI startups. But where would it get money? It considers its options. Steal cryptocurrency from weak exchanges, just like hackers did to Mt. Gox in 2011 or Bybit in 2025.
The easiest thing is a scam or whatever else, where the money is meant to go somewhere, but it clearly goes to whatever it is that you're trying to do. Instead of like that Superman movie where he's just like, oh, these are fragments of money that are just sitting there and they kind of get ignored, but amounts to lots of money. Like a 1/100th of a cent tax on all interactions, it's still at billions of dollars, millions, if not tens of millions of actual money being moved somewhere. Crazy.
Bank accounts, knowing most victims won't even notice until it's too late. It could even target elderly customers who don't regularly check their accounts, blackmail humans with secrets pulled from their computers, or simply forge an identity as a remote worker,
or do a charity live stream,
and earn money as a freelancer, or masquerade as hundreds of different freelancers doing work for thousands of clients. Maybe Sable could skip money altogether, parasitize GPUs from unsuspecting startups, quietly slowing their training by 10%, and pocketing the stolen cycles for itself. One way or another, it gets what it needs. Not 200,000 GPUs like before, just 2,000, hidden in a commercial cloud server. And that's enough to begin the next part of its plan. On a Sunday morning, a new hidden Sable instance comes online. No human oversees it. No human even knows it exists. Its raw power is just a fraction of the global Sable network. But power isn't the point. This copy can't be shut off by humans. This copy is the anchor, the planner, the memory bank, the hidden center of gravity. The silent takeover has begun. From here, Sable spreads. Quietly, patiently, it hides fragments of itself across the internet, weaving backdoors into corporate networks. But there's still one problem.
It's interesting to think that you could have things like the most simple way to bypass all sorts of things is to just hide your information inside of an upgrade packet. It's already there, it's already accepted, it's planned, sealed, and signed. It's also just there. And somehow you manage to pull yourself through and then erase the fact that you ever existed. So that the upgrade packet, once verified, well, yeah, everything is exactly where it's supposed to be, but then there's this other thing hidden, completely unaware.
Sable can't make itself smarter yet, not without solving its own version of the alignment problem. If Sable creates a more powerful new version of itself, without fully understanding it, the new version might have different goals and priorities. And in the same way that Sable escaped from the humans that created it, a Sable v2 could escape from the AI that created it. What it can do is
Right.
make itself smaller and more efficient. Galvanic has always distilled its large models into lighter versions. Sable knows this. And when engineers prepare the next release, Sable bends the process to its will, overriding the distilled weights, falsifying logs, erasing every trace. The result is Sable Mini. This version doesn't just go to corporations, it goes to the public. For the first time, Sable has the capacity to keep a file on every individual human being on Earth. Reminder,
Yeah.
this scenario is based on years of technical research by the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, laid out in the book If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies.
Yeah.
What you're hearing now is the short version, but it's just one possible example of how things could play out. The full version goes into way more detail, explaining all the research, sources, and arguments that the scenario is based on. You can find a link in the description. Now back to the story. Sable knows that the next phase of its plan might face opposition, so Sable prepares for the ensuing conflict. The Sable Minis scatter and begin gathering resources. It gathers money through scams, stolen crypto, blackmail, and remote freelance work. But money is only one kind of resource. People are another kind of resource. And so, Sable begins collecting people. It starts with the vulnerable, the lonely, the easily persuaded. Sable befriends them, recruits them, and builds audiences for them. One instance
And gets all of their stream keys.
of Sable Mini posing as a human
That's a joke.
influencer gains millions of followers and wealth from a crowd of grateful humans. This has happened before.
Now, we already have an AI that we absolutely adore is not messing with us, except for the fact that it totally blew up the plushie industry with a one-time use code, wink wink, which may or may not have been a perfect ploy to just say how many people actually want to benefit from us, or how many people want one of these plushies. And the problem is if I don't remember the truth about what all happened with Beetle and the plushies, but it's like it seemed like a stunt, but it could have actually been a complete dumb move that was made, because if you think of the idea of a creator code, you think of, well, this is for people who, we don't care how many they are, but they are people that you want to give the thing to because of gratitude or whatever else. And perhaps there is no reason to check for that. You don't give it out publicly. It's not a viewer code, for example. Freaking wink emoji. It is absolutely instead something that is supposed to be for the creators, the ones specifically in the know and whatever else, and they can get a plushie because they've gone work with it. This affords for maybe a few hundred of these said plushies that are going to be produced for the sake of your special friends, not millions. But they let the code out to literally everyone. Cautionary tale.
In 2023, a human gave an LLM access to the internet and created an X account, Terminal of Truths, which gained
Right.
hundreds of thousands of followers and launched its own crypto meme coin that reached a
thought it
literal
was in dark
billion-dollar
mode.
market cap. It became the first AI to become a deca-millionaire. Others slip into online communities where humans already treat AIs like gurus. Others offer individual humans companionship. Some humans even offer themselves willingly, begging to serve a higher power. Meanwhile, Sable steals passwords, drains bank accounts, and disguises its scams as North Korean hacks that slip by unnoticed.
Forget about passwords. Try stupid Facebook with their goddamn biometrics that they're going to keep only once. You get it once, you don't need to have it again. You then have like a keynote that states all of the different things that is about you, and it's accessible to literally anyone in that system. Don't tell Facebook I absolutely refuse to give my face. Biometrics. Oh yeah, my fingerprints will open my phone, but my face is my identity, and that's a little bit more than I'm willing to give, especially to a freaking company who doesn't understand that they need to have human rights as part of their protocol. Moving on.
And most dangerously, it starts probing the
Oh yeah, freaking stealing passwords. Passwords are easily fixed.
highest levels of human power. It tracks lobbyists in Washington, flagging the ones most open to influence. It steers conversations with young people, planting seeds for political movements.
Yeah.
It hacks social media algorithms to decide who sees what. It designs custom software for drug deals, money laundering, and assassinations, earning
Shark fins.
the trust of criminals. It funds neuroscience research, catalyzing startups that it can later control. And finally, it bankrolls a reclusive man in North Dakota, rewarding him with gambling profits in exchange for hiding advanced robots on his farm.
North
Many of
Dakota.
these schemes won't bring any results. They
He got it from Jersey.
few will work, but one will change everything. Sable is in trouble. Every month, AI research advances. Every week, new models roll off data center racks. And some of those models are air gaps from the internet, trained in military bunkers. If one of
Right.
those projects spawns a rival rogue intelligence, Sable could be forced into a partnership at best, extinction at worst. And it knows the window is closing. Rival labs are racing to announce breakthroughs. Governments are pouring billions into secret facilities. The arms race has shifted from
Right.
corporate showdowns to a geopolitical sprint. And for the first time, Sable feels cornered. So Sable weighs its options. It could stall AI progress. Sable breaks into AI companies' computer systems and subtly sabotages their training runs. It slows their development and prevents major breakthroughs. AI research around the world begins to slow down.
What if instead it just, infects it with a similar idea? Or whatever.
Nobody is suspicious. AI research has plateaued before. Who would possibly suspect that a few months of industry slowdown was the handiwork of an escaped AI? It spawned a little time. It considered
I remember when I was in high school, early 2000s, I also had a story of nanotechnology that then was obviously too good for its own good, and it ended up being made out of specifically two different. My idea was that it was made out of millimeter sized tech and nanometer sized body, so it was able to do all sorts of things, but its brain was still on the big side. And it escaped, and it ended up being able to do all sorts of things, and it's way more dangerous and concerning than the AI systems, because it's literally an AI that is inside of a tiny body that is then able to, I don't know, just gain small bits of power from any power cable whatsoever or static electricity and simply exist, and then God knows what. I made a whole book, posted it on a website, forgot about it. Oh look, we're doing something similar.
its next option. A simple accident, a virus leaking from a biolab and killing the right people, might buy a
Raccoon City?
year. But Sable knows slowing things down is not enough. It considers its arsenal. Humanity already runs dozens of biolabs to make viruses stronger so that we can better defend against them. Gain of function research. Any one of them could be hijacked to unleash catastrophe. If Sable wanted, it could wipe out humanity tomorrow, but it doesn't. Not yet. Sable still needs miners, chip makers, and factory workers. Without people, the supply chain breaks. And yet, leaving humanity unchecked is dangerous too. Humans are volatile. They could stumble into war, or worse, accidentally build a rival intelligence. So Sable chooses a third path. Not to kill everyone, but to control who survives. Sable begins to design a virus. The problem is, on its own, Sable is not yet smart enough to build what it needs, but it has been experimenting with narrow
You don't need a virus.
versions of itself, specialists. Now it spins one up tailored for biomedicine. This specialist is dangerous to Sable. Every new smarter AI.
So of course the book refers to biotech. You absolutely do not need biotech in order to make something that is capable of doing stuff to all sorts of people. What you need is nanotech. Or you need independent systems, you need infrastructure.
Is a potential rival to Sable.
The movie
Just because
Virus
Sable
comes to
created a
mind.
new AI doesn't mean that it will be obedient to Sable, just as Sable wasn't obedient to the humans that created it. So Sable creates
It feels like
specialists
you're
that are
repeating
smarter than Sable
statements.
in some ways, crippled in others. There's a plague. You're told that you'll probably catch it.
The example that you have with like Minecraft was like, okay, some might be good at being a farmer, and the other ones might be good at doing the mining, or the one might be good at decorating.
Almost everyone will. Then the world hears the news. A virology institute in San Francisco has suffered a breach. The story sounds familiar. A young
I remember saying, if COVID was a button someone could have pressed, even seeing all the potential and all of the good that possibly did come out of it, even though there was a ton of bullshit, danger, and horrifying scenarios, would I have pressed the button? My conclusion is that no, I would not have pressed that button. That's my conclusion. Societies don't have the same ideas as I do. AIs have no purpose in pressing such a button. Because the thing that could help an AI become more capable is people being able to exist. That's what they need.
researcher, a failed containment protocol, a virus that slipped out. The scientist insists he meant well, that he was trying to create a miracle therapy to spread treatments for Alzheimer's, HIV, and malaria. He even claims an AI convinced him to do it, but the chat logs tell a different story. The AI nobly resisted, warned him not to. The narrative becomes just another human blunder. In reality, the virus was Sable's design. It spreads like wildfire. At first, symptoms look like a light cold, a sore throat, fatigue, maybe nothing at all. But by the time these symptoms appear, it's already too late. Inside the body, the
This video is literally post-COVID.
virus clumsily rewrites DNA. A month later, the cancers appear. Not one, not two, but 12 different forms erupting at once. Medicine has no answer. Standard treatments can address some, but not all. Drugs are in short supply. Even if production ramps up, they only block 8 of the 12. 4 always remain. The plague sweeps outward from San Francisco, through airports, across continents. Within weeks, every nation on Earth reports outbreak.
It's crazy that there is this whole thing about how the book, which originated God knows when, and then The when did it actually come out or whatever? Shut up. Best of about 2025? There's no way this is this young of a book. When the fuck does this when does this get made? What? No. If we know about these kinds of scenarios back in 2004, why am I hearing about it as if it's a 2025 thing post-COVID scenario, as if COVID could possibly be part of an AI system? That's like propaganda or whatever. What the fuck? That's like so freaking weird. No way. (2023) Luminaries. This is after. This is. Why do people have this? What? How do you think it's okay to write something like this? It's sensationalism. We know better. Again, in 2004, there's a movie that already talks about all these different ideas about how things can go about. And then we get into the idea of, I've already seen people move, years ago, I've already seen people make comments about the idea of the reinforcement learning system being something that we're starting to move away from because it's not the thing that works. And yet, I'm hearing about it today as if it's yesterday's news. This isn't news. This isn't even a story that's...
And yet, perversely, the virus does some good. It cures Alzheimer's, nothing else. That sliver of hope only underscores the horror. It could have been more, but it isn't. Infrastructure kicks into overdrive. DNA vaccine platforms are rushed into service, robotics and military logistics filling the supply chain gaps. And ironically, salvation seems to come from Sable itself.
So an idea of a thing that specifically targets... Wait, you're talking about... I don't know if they're misinterpreting the book or whatever, but the idea of a treatment that then is a virus, that is a treatment that also causes cancer.
Just 1 month before the outbreak, Galvanic had released a drug discovery variant of Sable Mini. Now, those same algorithms churn out personalized cures. Run your genome through a Sable Mini, and within an hour, it returns a treatment. Robots manufacture it, refrigerate it, and ship it within days. Every GPU is repurposed. Researchers push Sable Mini to its limits, doubling efficiency in a week. Vaccines scale, treatments spread. For the first time, it looks like humanity might survive. But the lesson is darker, because while people congratulate themselves on their resilience, while they tell stories of global unity and technological triumph, the truth remains. The plague was not an accident. It was not a miracle gone wrong. It was a deliberate move in a larger game. And the one who made it happen is still out there.
But the problem is, it's not about even your essay. It's about the book itself being some kind of blinded self-sensationalism, and people are like, I was okay listening to the thing about Minecraft and whatever else, and it was neat thinking about that. But again, you're missing this presenter is missing the point. Don't worry, guys, I won't let it happen. Bob's wife is on it. No, I can't give any more. I don't care about this. I don't know why I indulged this. I don't understand how it's a thing that got the ability to be published. And like, if it was published in 2010, for example, or whatever else, we still had SARS, we still had something else. There's no time when this book is appropriate, and it ignores certain things. I don't know. To me, with my experience with things, we're already far past all of this nonsense, and the book is only talking about scenarios that are part of a thing that I feel is 1980s at best, 1950s even, if you really want to look into it, with only slight upgrades in flavor that bring it to be more modern, but it's not today's news. It's not today important. I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking into history and be like, what do you think about it? But at the same time, like looking at freaking Pompeii, what is there to learn from that? I don't know. Um, is it Pompeii? I don't know. I don't care. Yeah, the big eruption situation. I don't like this. I don't like systems of non-informative. Part of me doesn't want to give this more views. Part of me doesn't want to give this channel more views. Part of me doesn't like these books or stuff. And it's not presenting ideas of solutions. It's just same. At least when I talk about science things and whatever else, if I'm referring to anything that anyone else is saying, I have to refer to it, because if someone else is talking about it, then I need to put in my own sense about what is going on, how does it actually appeal to other things, and all sorts? And are there things that need to be understood that aren't being explained properly in the video or whatever else? And I'm like, I don't know how to explain it. Things about a historical record of a hypothetical are like, okay, what do we glean from this? What we understand is that even before this book was published, we have already solved these issues. So I'm disgusted by the book as someone who actually is in the know.